from Denton County, weighing 215 pounds, making his very first Fort Worth appearance, the newest Von Erich to the wrestling world, Mike Von Erich.
Michael Brett Atkinson was born March 2, 1964 in Dallas, Texas, the fifth of 6 sons born to Jack and Doris Atkinson. With most wrestlers we cover in world-class bios, we at least take a brief look at their life before pro wrestling. With Mike, that's a difficult thing to do, as there really was no before pro wrestling in his life. Mike's father, Jack, was better known as Fritz Von Erich. By the time Mike was born, Fritz was already a longtime veteran heel wrestler and one of the most famous names in pro wrestling. Shortly after Mike's birth, Fritz made the decision to go into semi-retirement to spend more time with his family, who were staying in Texas while Fritz primarily wrestled in the central and northeast U.S. However, an opportunity to become part owner of the National Wrestling Alliance's Dallas territory presented itself, and those plans changed, assuring Mike and his brothers' lives to be surrounded by pro wrestling. By 1969, Mike's younger brother Chris joined the family, and despite their father now being the top babyface in the Dallas territory and still one of the most notable names in wrestling, were leading what could be considered a typical life in North Texas. All the Atkinsons enjoyed hunting and fishing and spending time outdoors. Sports were also a big part of life with the Atkinsons, with Mike's older brothers Kevin, David, and Kerry all earning scholarships to attend college. Mike also did well at sports in school, particularly track and field, but a shoulder injury his sophomore year of high school hindered his progress. Mike did find other interests like music, as he took up playing the guitar. As Mike grew older, it appeared stepping into the ring might not be in his future. However, things were changing in pro wrestling, and that may have played a part in changing the direction of Mike's life. Mike's 3 older brothers all made their wrestling debut in the 1970s when pro wrestling was kind of underground, popular with a more select portion of the public. Kevin debuted in 1976, David in 1977, and Kerry in 1979. By the time Mike was preparing for his high school graduation in 1982, the Dallas territory was in the early stages of incredible growth. This was largely due to his brother's popularity and reaching a new audience through cable television and a worldwide syndicated program from the Dallas Sportatorium. Fritz officially retired from in-ring action that June, and the territory rebranded as World Class Championship Wrestling. In December 1982, the legendary feud between the Von Erich brothers and the Fabulous Freebirds began, sending the popularity of the territory into the stratosphere. A flood of new young talent came into Dallas, quickly making it one of the most popular and profitable territories in pro wrestling. Add to that, David was impressing the powers that be in the National Wrestling Alliance and was in line for a run with the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Mike did show interest in a new direction for the territory, but not as a wrestler. Mike was interested in the television production, which was already proving to be a major player in the popularity of World Class with innovative angles, handheld cameras around the ring, and vignettes centered on the wrestlers away from the ring. Kevin and those close to the family have insisted none of the brothers were forced into wrestling. I'm not going to speculate one way or the other. I wasn't there, and I don't know what went on behind closed doors. Maybe the draw of the limelight and the money that was being made changed Mike's mind. Maybe there was extra pressure put on him with the possibility of David being gone as world champion, and the Von Erichs needing that third man in the Freebird feud. Whatever the reason, Mike spent roughly a year training to enter the ring, making sporadic appearances leading up to his debut as he was touted as the best athlete in the family. In one of his first public appearances leading up to his debut, Mike was thrust into the middle of the Von Erich versus Freebird feud. After Kerry gave Mike a ring jacket preceding an interview on the Saturday night TV program out of Fort Worth, Freebird leader Michael Hayes came to the ring to confront the barely 19-year-old Mike. Hayes ripped the ring jacket apart, prompting Mike to attack the Freebird. In the ensuing fight, Mike was tossed out of the ring to the floor in what could have been a nasty landing, and Kerry returned to the ring to handle Hayes, while Mike took care of an interceding Buddy Roberts. Even before he had had his first match, Mike set the tone for his short career. Known to be personable and funny behind the scenes, Mike was shy and uncomfortable during promos. While he didn't have the size of his brothers, he proved to be a hard worker with an underdog appeal. While not all world-class fans bought into the push that Mike was the best amateur athlete in the family, they did embrace him as if he were everyone's little brother. With all of his brothers in attendance, Mike made his professional debut on November 24, 1983, as part of the Thanksgiving Star Wars card at Reunion Arena in Dallas. Manager and longtime Von Erich nemesis Skandar Akbar insisted on being Mike's first opponent, telling fans he didn't want the young Von Erich to have an easy time in his debut. While Mike came to the ring by himself, Akbar had Kamal Handler and member of Devastation Incorporated Friday at ringside. The match itself was relatively short, with Mike staying on offense through most of it. Akbar had eventually gained the upper hand, grabbing a whip from Friday as he had Mike in a front facelock. Mike was able to turn the tables and roll up Akbar, gaining a pinfall victory, taking the whip from Akbar, and giving the infamous manager the lash across the back Akbar hoped to give him. It was a basic start to a career given a huge push, but the Von Erich brothers were so over at the time all they needed to get a big response from the crowd was a win. From there, the accelerator was only pushed harder. In only his fourth match, Mike tagged with Kevin in a no disqualification loser leaves town match against Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts at the Christmas Star Wars card at Reunion Arena on Christmas night 1983. In a match the same night as Mike's debut, Kerry Von Erich defeated Michael Hayes in a loser leaves town steel cage match, meaning Hayes couldn't wrestle in Texas for 1 year. In the following days, Freebird partners Gordy and Roberts stoked the fire by coaxing Kevin into agreeing to a loser leaves town match, with the remaining birds against Kevin and Mike. In the heat of the moment, Kevin agreed, but Father Fritz stepped in to alter the stipulation to say if Kevin and Mike lost, no matter which of them took the pin, Kevin couldn't wrestle in Texas for 1 year. If Gordy and Roberts lost, the Freebird that took the pin would have to leave Texas for 1 year. Being Christmas night, Santa Claus was at ringside for the match, with Kevin handling the bulk of the work early on. Mike did come in against Roberts, with Gordy verbally assaulting him from the apron as he chomped at the bit to get his hands on the rookie. Roberts would finally get the upper hand on Mike and tag in Gordy, who took demonic glee in throwing Mike around like a rag doll. Thinking they had the match all but won, Gordy and Roberts turned the match into simply punishing Mike as protective older brother Kevin looked on helplessly from the corner. Finally, Mike avoided an elbow drop from Gordy and managed to tag in Kevin, turning things in favor of the Von Erichs. Referee Bronco Lubitsch was knocked down during the match, but David Manning entered the ring to count as Kevin pinned Terry Gordy to win the match. Santa climbed into the ring to celebrate with Mike and Kevin, but it turned out not to be Santa at all, but Michael Hayes in disguise. Hayes attacked Mike, pile driving him in the ring before Kerry came running from the back to help chase the Freebirds away. Only 4 matches into his career, Mike had already been in 2 marquee matches, and played a part in dismissing one of the hated Freebirds 1 year after the Von Erich Freebird feud began. It was certainly not a typical start to a rookie's career. After the loser leaves town match, Mike started working spot shows in other cities, including a December 29, 1983 match that marked the only time he and David tagged together. The brothers lost to Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts in Corpus Christi. Going into 1984 and barely 2 months into his career, Mike was matched up against his biggest opponent yet, as he played a part in David's quest for the NWA World's title. World champion Ric Flair had battled all 3 of the older Von Erich brothers over the title, but it was David who was hot on his tail in early 1984. After Flair made some disparaging remarks about Mike, saying the young Von Erich wouldn't last 30 seconds in a match against him, David proposed a challenge. If Mike could beat Flair or hold him to a 10-minute time limit draw, David would get a shot at the NWA World's Championship with whatever stipulation David wanted at the time and place David picked. If Flair beat Mike, David would never challenge for the world title again. Flair accepted the challenge, and on January 30th, 1984 at the Wrestling Star Wars event at the Tarrant County Convention Center in Fort Worth, Mike stepped into the ring with the 2-time NWA World's Champion. A cocky and overconfident Flair toyed with Von Erich, repeatedly asking how much time was left. Mike continually escaped Flair's grasp and matched the champion blow for blow, but with time beginning to run out, Flair put Mike in the figure 4 leg lock. David ran to ringside to lend moral support, inspiring Mike to reverse the figure 4 and break the hold with 90 seconds remaining. A desperate Flair tried a series of moves, including a pile driver, but Mike managed to counter all of them and trapped Flair in a sleeper hold with 45 seconds remaining. Mike maintained the hold as the 10-minute time limit ran out, winning David's match for the world title. What would be the biggest time limit draw of Mike's career was supposed to set the table for David's world title run. David would ask for a match with one simple stipulation, that the rule saying a championship can't change hands on a disqualification be waived. That would prevent Flair from purposely getting disqualified, so he would lose the match but keep the belt. The place would be Texas Stadium in Irving, Texas, at the 1984 Parade of Champions. That's what it was supposed to be. 11 days after Mike defeated Flair, David passed away from acute enteritis as he was preparing to begin a month-long tour in Japan. The sudden death shocked and saddened fans and wrestlers alike, and obviously left the Von Erich family shattered. Not only had they lost David, but it came roughly a month before the 25th anniversary of the death of the oldest brother, Jack Jr., who died at 7 years old in an accident while the family lived in New York. After some time off, all the Von Erichs came back to wrestling, with Mike now having more pressure on him than ever before. Mike was not only expected to replace David, he was almost expected to be David. The National Wrestling Alliance agreed to give Kerry Von Erich a short run with the world title in honor of David, with Kerry defeating Flair at what was now the David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions on May 6, 1984. That same day, Mike was able to experience something his brothers had done many times, as his father Fritz Von Erich temporarily came out of retirement to tag with Mike and Kevin. The Freebirds had been allowed to return to the territory and were holding the World Six-Man Tag Team Championship. Mike, Fritz, and Kevin challenged for the tag championship in a bad street match, which was essentially a come-as-you-are, no DQ match. Mike's time in the ring was limited in the match, as the focus was largely on Fritz facing the Freebirds for the first time, but he did play a part in one memorable moment as he held Michael Hayes while Fritz took a belt to the backside of the Freebird mouthpiece. Kevin scored the winning pinfall on Buddy Roberts, making the Von Erich six-man tag champions. Ready for it or not, Mike was a main event wrestler. Mike settled into a regular schedule in World Class, even getting his own shot at the NWA World Championship less than a month after Kerry lost it back to Ric Flair. In another bad street match, the Von Erichs defended the World Six-Man Tag Team Championship against the Freebirds at the Independence Day Star Wars card on July 4, 1984, this time with Mike and Kevin tagging with Kerry, and the Freebirds winning the titles back. However, Mike had championship gold of another kind in his near future. On August 4, 1984, Kevin was scheduled to challenge Gino Hernandez for the American Heavyweight Championship at the Sportatorium in Dallas. Fans were told Kevin missed a flight and couldn't make it to Dallas on time, so Mike was stepping in to challenge for the title in his place. Much like the match with Flair, Hernandez was smiling and laughing before the match began, but was then scurrying outside the ring as the young Von Erich was able to counter most of his moves. Eventually, the veteran Hernandez got the upper hand and began to dominate. Hernandez had been having trouble with Sunshine's aunt Stella Mae French, who had become a fixture in the territory. When he spotted a woman at ringside that looked like Stella Mae, Hernandez was distracted long enough for Mike to come up behind him and roll him up to take a pinfall victory and become the American Heavyweight Champion. It was the only singles title Mike held in his career. Mike went on a winning streak over the next month, defeating the likes of Michael Hayes, Buddy Roberts, Bill Irwin, and Kelly Kiniski, as it appeared he was settling in for a long reign as champion. However, in a rematch with Hernandez for the title at the Labor Day Star Wars card in Fort Worth on September 3rd, Von Erich found himself in the middle of the Hernandez and Stella Mae feud. As Mike had Hernandez in the sleeper, the crowd started reacting to something in the crowd. Stella Mae had been coming down the aisle, but was attacked by Gino's hired hand Nicola Roberts, also known as Andrea the Lady Giant. As referee Bronco Lubitsch recovered from a thumb in the eye, Roberts climbed to the ring apron and hit Mike in the back of the head with a foreign object. That led to Gino getting a pinfall victory and regaining the American title. The first feud for Mike that didn't involve the Freebirds or his brothers came to a head at the Cotton Bowl Extravaganza on October 27, 1984, when he teamed with Stella Mae in a mixed tag team match against Hernandez and Roberts. After a surprise return by Sunshine, who entered the Cotton Bowl via helicopter, the short match mostly focused on the ladies, with Gino and Mike only spending a couple of minutes in the ring. Von Erich and Stella Mae won when Sunshine hit Roberts with a chair while referee David Manning wasn't looking, allowing Stella to get the pin. On that same card, Mike tagged with brother Kerry and Bobby Fulton in a defense of the World Six-Man Tag Team Championship. Fulton was subbing for Kevin Von Erich, who was injured earlier on the card in a match against Chris Adams. The team lost the tag titles to Adams, Hernandez, and Jake Roberts as the focus on the six-man title shifted from the Freebirds to a new trio of villains. Kerry, Kevin, and Mike took the six-man title back on New Year's Eve in Fort Worth, sending things into 1985 with the six-man title solidly into Von Erich's grasp. There would be less focus on the six-man title as Jake Roberts was on his way out of the territory, and Mike was having shoulder problems and on a lighter schedule. Von Erich would still find his own feud in the form of Rip Oliver. Oliver, who was preparing to leave World Class and go back to Portland, broke Mike's hand by slamming it in a door at the Tarrant County Convention Center in Fort Worth. The injury and Oliver's following suspension were both kayfabe, but it led to a short series of matches between the two. Though the two would face off in several house shows after, the feud essentially ended at the 1985 David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions, when the cast-wearing Von Erich defeated Oliver in just under 9 minutes. 3 months later, Mike Von Erich's life would never be the same. World Class was immensely popular in Israel. Many people in the area claimed that when World Class was being aired on television, the constant conflicts in the area eased as people on both sides stopped to watch wrestling from Dallas. In August of 1985, a tour was arranged to take place in Tel Aviv. A tournament was held on August 7, 1985, to crown the World Class Middle Eastern champion. Kevin Von Erich would go on to win the tournament final over Gino Hernandez, who had defeated Mike Von Erich in the semifinals. In that match, Mike's shoulder problems that had been lingering since his sophomore year of high school finally came to a head. Mike dislocated his shoulder in the match for the third time in 4 months. Doctors in Tel Aviv treated him for symptoms, but Mike was going to require surgery on the shoulder. Leaving Israel early, Mike returned to Texas and on August 22nd underwent surgery at Granville C. Morton Cancer and Research Hospital in Dallas. The routine surgery was successful, and Mike was released 4 days later. Less than 24 hours after returning home, Von Erich began to suffer from a high fever. Mike returned to Granville and was readmitted. When his temperature reached 105, he was transferred to Baylor University Medical Center in Dallas, where he was placed in intensive care as his temperature reached an incredible 107. Doctors determined he was suffering from toxic shock syndrome, a form of blood poisoning caused by a poisonous substance that creates a bacteria in the blood. The toxins move through the bloodstream and affect the kidneys, liver, lungs, and other vital organs. Somehow, the infection got into Mike's shoulder during the surgery. Doctors at Baylor did not expect Mike to live through the night, even telling his family to prepare to say their goodbyes. With David Von Erich's death only a year and a half gone, news of Mike's condition quickly hit the media. Baylor was bombarded with phone calls from fans, forcing the hospital to bring in more employees just to answer the phone. When false reports that Mike's kidneys had failed reached fans, many of them called in to offer to donate a kidney. It was a sign of just how popular the Von Erichs were in Dallas at the time. Somehow, Mike survived. In a press conference on August 30th, the day after Mike's near-death experience, Dr. William Sutker told reporters the fact Mike was in top physical condition was probably the only reason he was still alive. Speaking for the family, Kevin Von Erich stated, "A miracle took place last night." Mike was kept in intensive care over the next 2 weeks as doctors kept a close eye on him. After fighting past problems with his kidneys and lungs, among other severe ailments, Mike's condition was upgraded from critical to serious. On September 11th, he was discharged from intensive care and moved to a private room, with his condition upgraded from serious to fair. Eventually, Mike was well enough to appear in front of the media himself. His gaunt appearance was disarming. Mike was never that big when compared to his brothers, but what size he had was gone. Von Erich's eyes were disquieting, and his speech awkward and uneven. Mike himself insisted that he would return to the ring, but for those watching his first public appearance after being in intensive care, it was hard to believe. Many fans, maybe even most of them, never expected to see Mike wrestle again. On October 6, 1985, less than a month after being released from intensive care, Mike made an appearance at the Cotton Bowl extravaganza, getting a hero's welcome riding into the stadium in a car with his brothers. It also happened to be the first appearance by the Von Erich's kayfabe cousin, Lance Von Erich, who came into the territory while Mike was out. Still showing the marks from his ordeal, it became clear, for better or for worse, Mike would indeed return to in-ring action. Just 9 months later, Mike returned to the ring at the Independence Day Star Wars card. Mike, Kevin, and Lance Von Erich defended the World Six-Man Tag Team Championship against Butch Reed, Buzz Sawyer, and Matt Bourne on July 4, 1986 at Reunion Arena. Now in his early 20s and having worked hard to get back in the ring, Von Erich was actually looking a little bigger and more defined, However, his balance and coordination were still feeling the effects of his illness. It was clear to most of the wrestlers and many of the fans things just weren't working out. Mike tried and still put in the work, even going on a month-long tour of Japan in January 1987, but it was an uphill battle he simply couldn't physically make. In storyline, real-life Von Erich friend Brian Adias turned on the family, beginning with a match against Mike in October when Adias sucker-punched Mike to gain a pinfall victory and attacked the young Von Erich after the bell. The feud heated up when Kerry, who was on crutches and still out of action after a motorcycle accident, approached Adias and his new tag partner Al Madrill about what happened. What was meant to be a friendly confrontation turned ugly, with Madrill attacking Kerry to the point even announcer Mark Lawrence got involved trying to pull Kerry to safety. Mike's attention turned largely to Adias as the two faced off at several house and spot shows. On April 3, 1987, after Von Erich defeated Mike Williams at the Sportatorium in Dallas, Adias jumped Mike after the bell. During the fight, Adias took off his belt and began whipping Von Erich. Von Erich managed to get the belt away, but Adias ran to the back before taking any payback. It was all to set up a country whipping match between Von Erich and Adias at the 4th Annual David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions on May 3rd. Unfortunately, the match against Mike Williams at the Sportatorium on April 3rd would be Mike Von Erich's last match. Away from the ring, Mike was still dealing with physical and mental issues related to his battle with toxic shock. Mike was known to go into rages and was abusing alcohol and prescription drugs. Not only was it the after effects of having toxic shock, but many believe Mike felt he was letting his family down. Things reached a boiling point for Mike on April 11, 1987, when he was arrested for driving under the influence and possession of a controlled substance. Mike would be released on bond, but 2 days later went missing. On April 16th, Mike's car was found near the entrance of Pilot Knoll Park at Lake Louisville, roughly 8 miles from his home. About 10 a.m., police found Mike's body 600 yards from his car, hidden by high grass. Mike had climbed into a sleeping bag and taken his own life by overdosing on tranquilizers. In Mike's car, they found his jacket and a handwritten note that said, "Mom and Dad, I have gone to a better place. I'll be watching." The short life and wrestling career of Mike Von Erich may very well be the saddest story of all in a family that has been surrounded by tragedy. Mike didn't go to college and have the life experience of his older brothers, nor did he achieve the acclaim and success they did in a profession he may not have had the same passion for. It begs the question, what if Mike Von Erich had simply been Mike Atkinson, a guitar player or a cameraman? Mike Von Erich, Mike Atkinson, may not have reached the heights of his brothers, but is still fondly remembered by world-class fans who recognize the work he put in and how hard he tried. He is forever everyone's little brother.
Throws Roberts right on top of him, and he has the wig. Mike Von Erich with the wig, and Roberts runs like a skinned chicken. Mike Von Erich with a smile on his face has won the event